Good afternoon. Welcome back to Dev Mentor Dave channel here on Twitch and on YouTube, streaming live here most days from roughly 4 o'clock to 4:30. So I am a little behind. I apologize. Got wrapped up in some things at work and, messing around with, AI and all that fun stuff. And I just kind of lost track of time. And so here I am. And no, I will not be doing any push-ups. Just for the record there, in case Ming decides to pop in here and tell me that I should be doing them. Not going to happen. So there you go. But welcome back to our Workday Recap, where we talk about things from my workday or your workday, or just random weird things we found on the internet, perhaps. Anything that is on your mind, topic for the day, feel free to share, and we'll jump in and see what I think, because my opinion's the most important. No, anyways, if you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello. Do at Mentor Dave before your message if you want to get a hold of me specifically. If you have a question for me, if you have something that you want to talk about, then we can dive right into that today. We did have a Workday recap on Friday. We missed a couple days last week, but we did have a full day Friday, and then also Saturday for 10 to noon. Every Saturday we jump in there. Ming, good to see you. You jumped over on the YouTube side this time. So thank you. Welcome back. You must have already been on YouTube. Yeah, I did mention push-ups. Yes, that's correct. Not gonna do them. That's what the mentioning was, that I ain't gonna do it. Although I need to. So we heard from my son yesterday from basic training, and he was relaying to me how much weight he's lost in basic training, and I said I haven't lost any, and he said, are you exercising? I was like, nope, I sure am not. So pretty much that's all he's done is exercise for the last 10, 11 weeks. And probably not eat very much, or at least not eat very, very much bad stuff. So I'm sure that's why he's definitely dropped a lot of weight, and I have not dropped any. Though I need to lose about as much weight as he's lost, that's for sure. So anyway, nobody really is here for that, I don't think. So anyway, we did do some development sort of last Saturday. It was kind of weird. So and I actually, excuse me, I've been so busy today, I haven't actually. Yeah, I know. I need to follow his example. Not in joining the military side, but definitely in the weight loss side. That's for sure. But we did some coding based around some of my LinkedIn posts from last week. And I've been so busy today, I haven't even had a chance to write an updated LinkedIn post. I should have done it on Sunday when I had a little bit more time. But man, it's just been a busy, busy day. So one of the things I will caution you as you jump into this world, those of you who might be junior developers, or maybe you're a mid or senior level developer, most companies generally desire for you to kind of move your way up in the world of development, not just as a developer, but oftentimes into more management positions and things like that. And I think for many people that's a perfectly fine path. For me, I feel like it's a good path. I enjoy being in that management position, but you need to figure out if that's something that you enjoy, and make sure that you make it clear. My tablet has a weak connection, so I have to use my YouTube. Oh, I see. No problem. No problem. You don't have Twitch on your phone? Usually you're on the Twitch side. So it's a good position for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy lots of different aspects of it. But not everybody does. And I think as you get into the workplace, as you start building up some time, it's good for you to kind of think through that process and decide, do I want to spend my time in management in the future, or do I want to spend my time more in development? And neither of those is wrong, right? In fact, I've got some guys that work for me who are looking forward to moving into a management position someday, and I have some who work for me and they really want to make sure that they stay in some way connected to the code and actually working in the code. And I think that both of those are important, right? We need devs who are senior devs who do it for a long time, and and it's something that they enjoy doing and that they can mentor other devs. That's one thing about moving into management that I've noticed, at least in my current position, as I don't have as much flexibility and time, and in order to spend in like actually doing mentoring for developers in our business. So if we were to hire a junior developer, I would not be able to be the one that's involved in the mentoring process. As much as I enjoy doing mentoring, just being in a management role is just such a different world than being in a development role. In a development role, you really have a lot of kind of built-in opportunities for mentoring, right? You already have the opportunity built in for somebody to come up to you and ask questions because you're part of the development team. You're part of the people writing the code, and you're more involved typically. You're more not just available, but you're more noticeable, right? You're going to be in meetings and smaller meetings and rather than the large group meetings like a manager would probably host. So that's something to think about. If you're wanting to be a mentor all the time for the rest of your life, which I would really encourage, then if you're going to move into management, you're going to have to find a position that affords you that opportunity, or you're going to have to find some other outlet, something like YouTube or something like coaching on the side or things like that, right? You're going to have to find something else that's going to help you scratch that itch, so to speak, especially if you want to do something around code, right? If I'm as a manager, if I want to write code, I either have to jump in on a project that may or may not want me to jump in on, or I have to do stuff on the side. And I find that a lot of times it's more stuff on the side. Now, I have several projects that I manage, and at least the big one, I actually do participate some in the development of that here and there. So I get to stay in the code just a little bit. Probably not nearly as much as many other developers would prefer to stay in the code, but it is important that you think about those realities as you progress in your career. I think I've told the story before, but one of the companies that I worked for in the past, I was a contractor, and I would come in probably about 7 o'clock in the morning, mostly to avoid traffic. And so I would be in there early, and my immediate lead and I would both be in there approximately about the same time. But most of the other team didn't come in till, 8:30 or so, somewhere around there. And so we would oftentimes have conversations about the job, about the company, about life in general, all kinds of different things. And one of the interesting things that he told me in one of our conversations was that company, they had a lot of really, really good developers, and they had a very specific path that they expected developers to go through in their journey, their career journey, right? And that basically went from being a developer to being a lead developer to being kind of a project manager slash BA type thing. It's kind of a weird, but they wanted to move you into these different positions, different levels of management. And the higher you got up, obviously you managed more projects and things like that, right? And so that was kind of the path that company had created for developers. And what would happen is they would kind of force you into that path as you started earning more money, as you started moving to different, in order to get more money, you had to move to different jobs. It kind of, I hate that reality, but that happens a lot of places, especially bigger companies. So they would move you from one job, one role to another role. And a lot of the developers, the really good coding developers, I'm not saying that management can't be good developers. I'm just saying This is their scenario. So a lot of their really good developers got pushed in these management roles, and then they would quit and they would leave the company. They would go somewhere else. And so they were losing really, really good devs because they created a process that the devs didn't really want to participate in. And they were actually kind of shifting from that at the time. He was kind of explaining how all that actually was working at the time when I was working there. And so he just mentioned, they lost a lot of great devs. And I think we have to be careful, not just as companies to set up a specific path that we want to force developers into, but as developers, we need to be deciding what we want to do. And it's okay for this to change over time. You might right now think, I just want to be a developer for the rest of my life. I want to build cool stuff and make good money and keep making more good money and learning and growing and building my development journey and maybe mentoring people along the way and all those types of things. And you might find 10 years in that you want to try out management. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just want to encourage you, no matter where you are in your journey, to take some stock in where you're at and what you enjoy and what you think you might enjoy in the future. And if that's maybe moving more towards management, towards project management, if you enjoy leading people, then just realize that's going to come with some costs, right? You're not going to be able to spend as much time in the code. So you might want to be more of maybe a lead developer. Maybe that's kind of the management cap that you want to go into in order to make sure that you're still able to participate in the actual coding and development of a project. Or it may not be that big of a deal. Maybe you get 10 years in or 3 years in, I don't know. You get a certain amount of time in and you find you just enjoy doing project management more. You would just enjoy doing client relationship more than you do actually writing code. That's okay too. Don't ever feel like you're being unsuccessful because you're finding you're like a different part of the application development process over writing code. That doesn't mean you're a bad developer. It just means that you find something else more enjoyable, and maybe you're actually better at client management or project management or something like that than you are at writing code, even if you are really good at writing code. So don't take that as a negative if you find yourself in that position, but also don't take it as a negative if you find yourself in the position that you don't really like managing projects and you don't really like interacting with clients. That's not wrong. There's a lot of people that will tell you that you need to be progressing in a certain specific way. And I just disagree with that for the most part. I think for most people, you should figure out what you're good at, figure out what you enjoy within this process of development, because you got into development for a reason, right? Figure out what you enjoy, figure out what maybe your next move is, and pursue that. And if the company that you're working for at the time, they don't want you to be in the code, but they want you to manage, be honest. Be honest about where you're at. And if that company is not willing to continue giving you raises or things like that, simply because you don't fit within their specific profile, then, it's okay to move on. It's okay for you to find something better in another company that kind of hits all the check marks that you want, because there are just things you're going to lose. You're going to be more busy in management, most likely. And it's not always going to feel like you're being as accomplished, right? It's not going to feel like you're doing as much sometimes, because you're managing people more than you're managing production, right? And so it's harder oftentimes in management to see what your success looks like versus writing code. You can tell when you've been successful writing code. You've got pull requests that have been accepted, right? And you can see your code in there. As a manager, my success comes from the success of other people. So I'm only being successful if I can help them be successful in doing their things. And that can sometimes be kind of hard to evaluate and to understand, all the different dynamics of what could be causing someone to not be as successful in their current role, and which of those things I can actually affect, right? So there are differences in every company and differences in every role, and so I just want to encourage you: don't pigeonhole yourself into a specific idea of what your development journey should look like. Just because your company, your employer has a specific path doesn't mean that's the path that you have to take. So just consider that. Consider that now if you're just beginning. If make a plan every 3 years. In this development world, I'm going to take a step back and evaluate where I'm at in my journey. What maybe my next goal is going to be. I did that after I lost my first job. I decided, you know what? I need to figure out what I want to do, what I want to be, what I want to learn. And so that next job that I took was specifically taken so that I could learn specific things. I wanted to do front-end application development in JavaScript and learn a couple of JavaScript frameworks. And so that's the job that I took. And I was able to find a job that actually gave me a pay increase and also taught me Angular and taught me Vue. And since then I've taught myself React because I needed to, and it kind of grows on top of itself from that point on. But every few years, take a step back, figure out where do you want to be in your journey, because if you're not careful, you'll find yourself ending up stagnating. And I'm not saying that necessarily has to mean that you move on from your current job, but you might need to have a discussion with your current employer and just say like, hey, I really want to go into this direction with my career. How can I do that with you? I kind of had to do that at my first job, mostly because I needed a raise. And so I said, how can I get a raise? And they were like, well, you have to go to this job in this group. And I was like, how do I do that? So I was able to move into a different role and get a pay increase and all that fun stuff on my first job. But I recognized that I needed to make a change, right? And so you need to take a step back. You need to evaluate where you're at in your journey. Maybe you haven't even gotten a job yet, right? We've got Ming here jumping on the chat and been looking for a job, been working towards getting a job, hasn't had a long-lasting job yet. And maybe that's where you're at in your journey. Like, that's okay even now to take a step back and evaluate, what direction do I want to go in? Maybe you do change directions now before you even get your first good full-time job. And maybe that is the catalyst for getting your first full-time job. You just never know. So I want to encourage you, don't just follow the path that someone else tells you to take, even if it's your employer. Figure out what you want to do, what you enjoy doing, what you think you're good at, and pursue that. Don't just get caught up in the wave. I think that's happened to a lot of junior developers, especially the last few years, who have come in. They've just kind of bought into the system that is already established through like boot camps and things like that, and that has led to a lot of people kind of gumming up the works when it comes to jobs, right? We have thousands of developers who all pretty much know just the same thing, and there's a bunch of other opportunities out there that no one's qualified for because everyone just kind of bought into the same system and program. And I think we need to be willing to take a step back and say, what else is there? Is there another path that I could go down? And that's something that we should do always through our development journey, through our career path. We should always take the opportunity to reevaluate. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, Ming says mostly been in startups. They want juniors or any level to hit the ground running immediately. Honestly, any company that is not set up to be mentoring junior devs is going to want everybody to come in and hit the ground running. I mean, we're the same way. That's why we typically only hire senior level devs, because they need to be able to just jump in, figure out the code base, especially if it's something that's familiar like Laravel or Vue, things that are out there in the world that have been used for a while, right? There's plenty of documentation, things like that. We expect senior developers to be able to jump in and get their environment up and running and figure out how they the ticket and ask the right questions if they need to, but then be productive really within their first week. And if you're not able to do that, then you're probably not a senior level developer, or the code base is just really, really crazy. One of the two. But most of the stuff that we have is not super crazy to get into right off the bat. So let's see. What else here? Ming says, I would like to mentor as I haven't had that yet when I got hired. I know the feeling when you're in a massive code base. Depending on level junior, what level junior you are, there should be some sort of mentoring to build great devs. Yeah, and again, that's going to come from devs more likely than it is going to come from management, right? Because the devs are in the code all the time and dealing with a lot of the same issues and problems that you're dealing with as well. So Bing says, I want to be in DevOps and solution architecture after some time. I love building and architectural system designs. That's cool. Yeah, I definitely, honestly, you could probably get into DevOps if you get some experience more quickly than architecture. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. There are some people that are in solution architects roles that have not done very much coding. I actually know a guy who's been pretty successful at one of the companies that I used to work for. And he's been a solutions architect for the whole time that I've known him. And he's done very little coding. In fact, I would not really call him a developer, at least based on what I've seen, right? And the experience that I know about. So that's actually an opportunity you might be able to dig into. Having some coding background, you might be able to actually jump into more of a solutions architect role. Oh, excuse me. So, all right. I am going to cut it off just a couple minutes early here, guys. I apologize. I'm getting pinged by some things at work. So I want to make sure I get that stuff taken care of before the day is fully done. Usually my day is fully done by now, but there's always something. So, Ming says that's why you build lots of projects and collaborate working on teams, because that will give you some sort of experience what it's like on the job. Absolutely. The more you can work with teams even before you get a job, the better you're going to be at working with teams when you do have a job, and you'll fit in a lot faster, and you'll be able to kind of work in that environment more quickly. So anyway, thanks for jumping on, Ming. Thanks for listening to me ramble on for 20 minutes as we went through some thoughts here on your journey and taking control of your journey. Don't let somebody else control your journey. You control your journey, and pursue the things that you're interested in, because more than likely, if you pursue what you're interested in, you're going to do better at it because you're interested in it. So lots of truths around that reality. So anyway, have a great day, guys. I will see you all back here hopefully tomorrow at 4 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. I will try to be even more exactly on time, so there will be no more calls for push-ups from me in the days ahead. So have a great day. I will see you later. Bye.